Hey, before you scroll, hear this. There's a woman I can't forget, not because she changed my life, but because she reminded me what it means to feel alive. You know, that kind of presence that doesn't fade, even when it's gone. That's her. She became the quiet echo in every decision, the unspoken name behind every small victory. I've built things, lost things, moved forward, and still her name keeps returning like gravity, pulling thought back to its orbit. Maybe you've known someone like that, too. Someone whose absence still feels like company. What nobody told me is that forgetting isn't the opposite of love. It's just the silence after the echo. And sometimes silence is louder than sound. So tonight, I want to speak to her, or maybe to the part of you that understands her. Because this isn't about romance anymore. It's about truth, presence, and the echoes we live with. If you're still here, stay with me. I'm going to reveal something at the end that you don't want to miss. And if you're interested, subscribe to my channel. I still remember the first moment I realized she wasn't just another memory. It wasn't a flashback or a photograph. It was quieter than that, like a whisper caught between heartbeats. You never plan to carry someone like that. It just happens, some part of them fuses with who you are, and you stop knowing where their presence ends and your own mind begins. They say time heals everything. I believe that until I learned that healing doesn't always mean erasing. Some wounds become windows. You don't close them. You just learn to look through them differently. That's what she became for me, a window. Through her, I saw the parts of myself I had buried under ambition, noise, control. She reminded me what it meant to feel, not just function. And that's what unsettled me, because for years, I built my life on logic, systems, momentum. But she entered like a glitch in the equation. Beautiful, irrational human. She didn't compete with my purpose. She exposed it. She showed me that love isn't a distraction from the mission. It's the reason the mission matters. Tell me, have you ever met someone who made everything around you slow down? Someone who made silence feel full? Who turned your usual restlessness into calm curiosity? That's what she did. And the strange part is she didn't even try. She just existed fully. And that fullness rearranged my sense of time. But here's what nobody told me. When someone enters your life that deeply, they don't really leave. Even when they walk away, a part of them keeps riding inside you. Sometimes it's a voice, sometimes just a warmth. Sometimes it's an echo, faint but faithful. I used to fight it. I tried to turn the page, delete the chapter, rewrite the ending with someone else's name. But the echo always found its way back. The truth is, some names are not meant to fade. They're meant to remind you. Not of what you lost, but of what you're still capable of. Wait, before you scroll, hear this. If someone is still echoing inside you, it doesn't always mean unfinished business. Sometimes it means unfinished becoming. She didn't stay to complete a story. She stayed as proof that I'm still learning how to love in silence, not through possession. Love that asks for nothing, demands nothing, but still shows up in the spaces between breaths. And yet, there are nights when that presence feels heavier than absence. I lie awake thinking, what if I never meet someone who makes me feel that alive again? What if she was the only person who ever saw me clearly beyond my ambitions, beyond the walls I built to impress the world? That's the risk with people who touch your truth. They don't leave you with closure, they leave you with clarity. And clarity can be cruel when you crave certainty. For years, I thought love was supposed to move forward, to evolve into something visible, a relationship, a commitment, a shared timeline. But she taught me something softer. She taught me that love isn't always built. Sometimes it's simply honored. She reminded me that presence is not about proximity. It's about awareness. You can be with someone every day and still feel oceans apart. And you can be miles away from someone and still feel them breathing beside you. That's when I understood that distance doesn't define connection. Consciousness does. There was a day, maybe 2 years after she left, when I was walking through a crowded city street, and suddenly her memory walked beside me. Not as a ghost, not as pain, but as gratitude. I realized I didn't miss her anymore. I missed the version of myself that existed when she was near, the one that believed love could still surprise me. And that's when everything changed. Because love, when it's true, doesn't freeze you in time. It sets you free in it. It asks you to grow into someone worthy of what you once felt. But the ego resists that, doesn't it? We want control. We want answers, reasons, outcomes. We want to label everything that moves us. I did too. I wanted to know why she came, why she left, why the universe let our paths collide, only to diverge again. And then one night I realized something. Maybe love doesn't need to make sense. Maybe it just needs to make meaning. She was never here to stay. She was here to awaken. Her absence became the teacher. Her silence became scripture. Every unanswered message, every memory unshared, it all became part of the same lesson. Presence begins when attachment ends. You know that feeling when someone's name crosses your mind for no reason, and it feels like the air around you knows it too. That's not coincidence. That's communication at the level of soul. We talk through energy long after words run out. She became that kind of dialogue in my life, one that doesn't require replies, only recognition. But to be honest, I wasn't ready to accept that at first. I wanted something tangible, something I could hold. I wanted the story to continue, not dissolve into poetry. Yet maybe that's what love ultimately is, the willingness to let beauty remain unfinished. There's a strange irony in it all. The deeper the love, the rarer the closure. Because love that real doesn't end, it transforms. And transformation doesn't come with announcements or endings. It just shifts the way light enters you. I started noticing it in the small moments. The way sunsets suddenly looked like forgiveness. The way laughter from strangers echoed like second chances. The way her name felt less like loss and more like rhythm. That's when I stopped trying to forget and started learning how to live with remembrance. Still, there are days when the memory hits harder than expected. A song, a word, a place. Suddenly, I'm back there reliving everything with brutal clarity, but then this calm understanding follows. Not every memory is meant to hurt. Some are meant to heal you by showing how far you've come. That's what growth feels like. Remembering without repeating, accepting the echo without needing it to stop. Look at me when I say this. The reason some people linger in our hearts is because they spoke a truth we weren't ready to keep alive ourselves. They carried light into corners we had forgotten. And when they left, that light stayed, forcing us to continue their work within. That's what she did for me. She became the mirror I couldn't turn away from. Have you ever looked at someone and realized they saw your potential before you earned it? That's terrifying and beautiful at once. She didn't love my success. She loved my stillness. The version of me that wasn't performing, wasn't defending, wasn't trying to prove. Maybe that's why it hurt so much to lose her, because I lost the only witness who saw me before I edited myself. But here's the shift. Over time, I learned to become my own witness. I started talking to myself the way she once did, with gentleness, with belief, with patience. I stopped punishing myself for still caring. Love doesn't expire, it simply matures, right? And mature love doesn't chase, it blesses. Wait. Hear this part carefully. The moment you stop wishing for someone's return and start wishing for their peace, that's when love turns sacred. That's when longing turns into liberation. She taught me that too, though she'll never know. People talk about closure as if it's an event. It's not. It's a decision. It's the moment you stop reaching backward and start walking forward with what still echoes behind you. You don't silence the echo, you harmonize with it. And maybe that's what remembering really is. Not clinging, not grieving, just listening deeply enough to turn pain into music. I don't think she'll ever hear this message, but if she somehow does, I want her to know this. Thank you. Thank you for changing everything by simply being real. Thank you for reminding me that emotional truth is more powerful than accomplishment. Because the greatest love stories aren't the ones that end in happily ever after. They're the ones that end with growth, gratitude, and grace. She gave me all three. Now when her name returns, it no longer aches. It blesses. It doesn't pull me backward. It brings me present. It reminds me that that connection is eternal, not because people stay, but because meaning does. Every echo eventually finds peace. Every unfinished story finds silence, and sometimes silence says it all. So if you're listening to this tonight, wherever you are, know that someone once changed me just by being themselves. And maybe that's the only kind of love worth remembering, the kind that frees both hearts without erasing either one. And if you've ever had someone like that, too, don't run from the memory. Honor it. Let it remind you that you were open once and you can be open again. Because love never really leaves. It just changes its language. There came a morning when I realized the echo had changed. It wasn't heavy anymore. It didn't pull me backward. It pulled me inward. That's how I knew something inside me had crossed a line no calendar could measure. You see, healing doesn't announce itself. It just appears one day like quiet sunrise light filtering through old curtains, touching the dust without shame. For a long time, I believed she held the key to my peace. I thought if I could just understand why it ended, I would finally be free. But clarity rarely comes from them. It comes from within us. And that's when I began to look at the echo differently. Maybe it wasn't a haunting at all. Maybe it was guidance. When you stop chasing answers, you start hearing lessons. That's what the silence revealed. Her absence wasn't emptiness. It was space. Space for me to rebuild my trust in life, not in her. Not in any outcome, just in life itself. Strange how loss can teach you faith better than faith ever did. But here's what nobody told me. Trust doesn't return all at once. It arrives quietly, like a slow tide reclaiming the shore after the storm. I stopped asking life for guarantees and started asking myself one question. Can I still believe in something good without proof? That's where rebirth begins. I stopped needing her to return. I started needing myself to show up. Tell me, have you ever looked at your reflection and realized it's time to stop waiting for permission to heal? That's where I was. One day, I looked in the mirror, and instead of wondering if I was enough for her, I asked if I was enough for myself. The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt powerful. And that's when I understood love doesn't complete you. It reveals the unfinished parts. What you do afterward, that's where trust begins. Wait, before you drift off, hear this. There comes a time when you have to stop trying to understand someone's silence and start making peace with your own. The more I tried to decode her absence, the less I heard my truth. So I began simplifying everything. I stopped rehearsing old conversations. I stopped building stories around what-ifs. I stopped expecting closure to arrive like a letter in the mail. Instead, I began living slowly, deliberately, consciously. I started journaling again, not to analyze, but to witness. I walked without headphones just to hear my thoughts breathe. I noticed how light changed through the hour. I started forgiving moments I couldn't explain. That's the secret rhythm of healing. Presence. It doesn't demand speed. It asks for stillness. Every time her name crossed my mind, I treated it like a gentle visitor instead of a ghost. Welcome back, I would whisper. Stay a while, then go. No resistance, no guilt, just grace. And something remarkable happened. The echo softened. It stopped sounding like her voice and started sounding like mine. The pain that once repeated now reminded me. The echo wasn't her memory calling anymore. It was my soul answering. You know that feeling when you finally realize the person you missed was never just them. It was who you became with them. That revelation humbled me, because every connection, no matter how brief, leaves a blueprint for another version of us. She wasn't the one who got away. She was the one who showed me another way. I used to think letting go meant losing. Now I believe it means learning how to carry love differently. But then came a harder truth. Trust isn't built in peace. It's built in repetition. You rebuild it. Every morning you choose belief over bitterness. Every night you choose surrender over control. Every moment you keep your heart open when it'd be safer to keep it closed. And that's when I started noticing something strange. Life began responding. New opportunities, new faces, new energy. It wasn't that the universe gave me something new. It was that I had finally cleared enough space for grace to land. Because trust is space. It's allowing the unknown to do its quiet work. For years, I wore control like armor. I thought if I could plan my purpose, predict my feelings, perfect my timing, I'd never hurt again. But love and life don't play by blueprints. We either meet them naked or we never meet them at all. Have you ever been afraid of your own peace? It sounds odd, I know, but sometimes chaos becomes familiarity. And when peace arrives, it feels foreign. That's how it felt for me at first. I didn't know how to sit with stillness without turning it into fear. But slowly, I learned that peace isn't the absence of movement. It's the quiet confidence that everything's moving as it should. That's where trust lives. In the empty spaces we used to fill with control. One evening, while watching the fading light hit my window, I caught myself smiling for no reason. No thought of her, no thought of anything missing, just gratitude. That moment didn't erase the past. It honored it. It told me I had finally crossed the invisible bridge between memory and meaning. But here's what nobody told me about growth. It's not dramatic, it's uncomfortable. Some days you feel free. Other days you ache for the person you used to be. Yet everything inside you whispers, keep going. That's how trust rebuilds. It whispers until it sings. Wait, hear this before it slips away. The reason trust takes time is because it requires gentleness. You can't force a heart to reopen by demanding it be ready. You nurture it. You give it small proofs of safety. You honor its rhythm. That's how self-trust begins. Not in grand declarations, but in steady practice. And when that trust grows, life starts to mirror it back. Suddenly, the unknown becomes less threatening. Failure becomes feedback. Even love starts to feel lighter because you've learned that whatever happens, you won't abandon yourself again. That's what she unknowingly gave me, the gift of returning to myself. She taught me love without expectation, but life turned it into self-belief without condition. And that shift changed everything. I started dreaming again, but not out of lack, out of faith. I started working again, but not for validation, for alignment. I began believing that peace wasn't a reward you earn. It's a language you must learn to speak. Tell me, when was the last time you trusted that where you are right now is exactly enough? That the detour is the destination. That heartbreak and its strange mercy might actually be divine redirection. Because that's what her story became for me. A detour that showed me my true north. Now when I think of her, I don't relive the details. I feel the direction. The compass she left behind isn't meant to point to her. It points to the places inside me I once neglected, and that doesn't make her memory any less powerful. In fact, it makes it sacred. In every entrepreneur, every dreamer, every person who's ever loved deeply, there's always a turning point like this. When longing becomes fuel, when pain becomes portal, when memory becomes mission, because love and purpose, when honest, are never separate. They orbit the same gravity. You know what I realized? The reason she keeps echoing isn't because I miss her. It's because she became my first language of trust. She taught me to believe in connection beyond evidence, in timing beyond control, in endings that aren't failures but transitions. So now, every time I feel that echo rise again, I let it. Because echoes aren't meant to fade, they're meant to guide. Some nights I still whisper her name, not to call her back, but to thank her, because the echo that once filled my loneliness now fills my strength. It rings like truth. And maybe that's how all real love ends, not in silence, but in resonance. You start to realize the person you can't forget is not the one you need to hold on to. It's the part of yourself they awakened. That's the gift hidden in goodbye. Here's the irony. Once I stopped meeting her to validate my purpose, I became more aligned with it. My work started to carry emotion again. My vision softened, but my ambition focused. I began creating from wholeness instead of hunger. Love didn't slow me down. It refined my aim. That's when I understood something profound. There's no success without intimacy with your own truth. And there's no intimacy without vulnerability. She taught me both. So now I lead differently. I love differently. I trust differently. Not with certainty, but with faith. Faith that what belongs will find me. Faith that absence doesn't mean failure. Faith that every echo has its reason. If she could hear this now, I think she'd smile because she always believed I'd reach this space. She saw me becoming long before I did. And so this message isn't just for her anymore. It's for anyone who's still standing between loss and renewal. Anyone afraid that love made them weaker when really it made them wiser. Don't rush your healing. Don't silence your echoes. Let them evolve until their sound becomes your strength. Because one day you'll wake up and that name that once broke you will bless you. You'll realize your heart isn't missing anything. It's integrating everything. Love doesn't vanish. It matures. It changes tempo. It teaches rhythm. And now when I close my eyes, I no longer see her leaving. I see myself arriving, present, whole, trusting again. That's the quiet miracle of return. It started quietly. This shift from remembering to building. There was no lightning, no grand awakening, just a steady pulse that said, move. Maybe that's what real transformation feels like. Not a door flung open, but a room rearranged without you noticing until sunlight hits differently. I used to think purpose was about achievement, about the next invention, the next summit, the next visible victory. But it isn't. Purpose begins where applause ends. It starts in silence and commitment that doesn't need to be seen. Love taught me that. She taught me that when someone changes you through presence, they become part of your creative code. They shape not what you make, but how you make it. I realized that everything I built before her came from ambition, but everything I built after her came from meaning. And that subtle difference changed my entire world. Have you ever noticed how love doesn't just alter your heart? It rewrites your logic. Suddenly, every calculation includes emotion. Every idea carries empathy. We start designing, writing, dreaming differently because we've touched something rare, truth. That's what she gave me. She showed me that brilliance means nothing if it's not anchored in humanity. But here's what nobody told me. After you lose someone like that, there's a temptation to build faster, to prove to yourself that you're okay. I did that. I filled my days with productivity projects, progress, promises. But peace doesn't live in business. It lives in obedience to what moves you. And no matter how much I built, I couldn't hide from the one thing I kept avoiding myself. Wait, before you think this is about grief again, it's not. It's about what comes after. The part where longing evolves into language, the point where emotion becomes innovation. That's where I found my new rhythm. Every idea since then has carried her energy in it. Not her face, not her story, but the vibration she left behind. She became the unseen muse, the echo that keeps my purpose alive. I guess that's how love functions when it matures, not as attachment, but as alignment. I remember sketching out a concept one night and suddenly realizing that love operates like oxygen in creation. You never see it, but it keeps everything alive. That realization changed the way I work. I stopped focusing on impressing people and started focusing on impacting them. Because love's ultimate translation is not romance, it's contribution. She once asked me what drives me. I gave her the usual answers: vision, destiny, curiosity. But she looked at me with that quiet calm that made lies feel small and said, "No. What actually drives you?" I didn't know then. I do now. It's connection. It always was. That's why her absence didn't destroy me. It redesigned me. Sometimes the universe sends you someone not to stay, but to shift your foundation. And once it's shifted, nothing fits the same way again, not even pain. You know, I think real purpose begins when you stop chasing perfection and start honoring presence. For years, I wanted my work to be flawless. Every detail, every outcome controlled. But love isn't perfect, and yet it's powerful. Weaving it thrives in motion, not in mastery. That's when I realized so does purpose. Maybe success isn't about control at all. Maybe it's about surrender with precision, doing your part, then letting meaning take its natural form. Tell me, have you ever felt that strange mix of certainty and surrender? That place where you know exactly what you're building, yet you can't predict where it leads. That's where I live now. I used to fear uncertainty. Now I trust it. Uncertainty is how the universe speaks before it reveals. I started designing my life like a spacecraft again. Carefully, passionately, but this time with heart at its core. Every equation had empathy. Every challenge had meaning. Every dream had room for someone else's transformation, too. Because what's the point of building a future if it doesn't help someone believe in theirs? Wait, hear this part. Somewhere along the way, I stopped chasing her and started chasing the feelings she represented. Peace through purpose, love through movement. And the beautiful part, that feeling doesn't depend on anyone's presence. It depends on alignment. That's when I understood that she was never meant to stay in my life. She was meant to stay in my design. Every time I build now, I feel her energy guiding something intangible. Like she left her fingerprint not on my heart, but on my horizon. Sometimes I wonder what if love was never about keeping someone, but about keeping the promise they awoke in you. That question changed everything. I began speaking to people differently, not to convince them, but to connect. I began leading differently, not through authority, but through example. I began living differently, not seeking perfection, but presence. Love, when it evolves, becomes leadership. It becomes clarity. It becomes the quiet conviction to live your truth out loud. And I'll be honest, there were still lonely nights. Even purpose can't erase them. But solitude, when met with honesty, turns into sanctuary. I used to hate the silence. Now I guard it because it's in quiet that purpose whispers clearest. There was a time I feared that forgetting her meant dishonoring her. Now I see it differently. Forgetting isn't the opposite of love, it's part of it. Love asks us to hold lightly what once shaped us deeply. It asks us to move forward without erasing where we began. That's trust on another level. The trust to evolve, even if they never see the final version of you. Have you ever wanted to show someone what their love built in you? The changes, the courage, the art they never witnessed. That longing used to ache in me. Now it moves me, because maybe they were never meant to see it. Maybe some transformations are meant to bless them from afar. And that's the truth. Love never really leaves. It just graduates to a higher frequency. She's not here in my life, but she's in the energy of everything I create. Every time I speak with sincerity, every time I build with empathy, every time I choose peace over pride, I feel her echoing approval in the background. That's when I stopped treating memory like pain and started treating it like partnership. Because when love is real, it doesn't vanish. It migrates from sight to strength, from closeness to clarity. Wait, before you scroll, hear this. Every person you've ever loved leaves a seed inside you. Some bloom immediately, others take years, but none are wasted. Maybe that's how life measures success. Not by what we accumulate, but by what we allow to grow through us. That's what she taught me, to become a vessel, not a vault. To let love move through me, not just to me. And the most striking thing, the more I gave, the more peace returned. I started mentoring again, not for recognition, but to pass forward what her presence once awakened. It felt like continuing a conversation that never ended, just shifted languages. There's a strange grace in realizing that love and purpose are mirrors. Both asked the same question. Can you stay open even when it hurts? Can you keep giving when the outcome is unknown? I used to separate the two. Now I see they're the same energy shaped by different circumstances. Love is the purpose of the soul. Purpose is love given structure. She awakened the soul. Life built the structure. Together they created meaning. Tell me, when was the last time you created something not for money, not for validation, but because you needed to bring beauty into existence? That moment, that impulse is the echo of connection. That's love still working through you. And so I learned to honor the echo, to let it stretch across every idea, every message, every step forward.